Okay. Um, so I thought it'd be a good idea to bring this thing down in the garage. Um, could I say 6 inches of snow out there? I'm gonna have to do some shoveling eventually. But I want to show you what I was up to. I I have this spooky2 system set up on this laptop here, and I don't know if you're familiar with spooky2, but it's kind of interesting. It has to do with quantum entanglement and a few other odds and ends. But this thing right over here basically has a DNA sample, all right? And uh, there's induction coils top and bottom, and this is like sandwiched in between, okay? Um, uh, the way it works is it affects the DNA by pumping a frequency, specific frequencies to the sample. And as it affects the DNA in the sample, it affects the DNA donor, which just happens to be me. Okay. Um, but I wanted to expand on this a little bit. All right. You could hook up a couple of devices to this thing. This is basically a booster. This is one of the devices that quantum entanglement and all that other stuff that I could barely understand. All right. But this cable right over here attaches to one of the outs, goes around here, and as you can see, I have it hooked up to a speaker. All right, for resistance, and I have the towel over it because, well, it makes a lot of noise. As you can see, I just have it hooked up in line. Okay, and that's hooked up to this thing. All right, that's 5 gallons of uh, orgone field generator. All right, and I was running this last night, and I just shut it down because that noise has got awful, and you know, uh, you can't hear a thing I'm saying while the thing's running. But right now, it's still buzzing. Even though it's not running, it's still buzzing. I have the thing on pause. So this thing was putting out some interesting frequency. I should say the frequency was driving this thing. All right. And this was translating the frequency to the energy that was coming out. All right. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Go ahead and go on there, because it kind of needs it. I'll fire this thing up so you could, see how annoying this is. I'll probably put a potentiometer on this, just so I could tone that thing down so I won't have to use that towel. But it's a pretty simple setup, and like I say, the frequencies that go into this are also the frequencies that go into this. And that action alone, is going to come up with some kind of results. I don't have stacks on it, and that's for a reason. I I used a pendulum, all right, for some of the specifics. Should I use a stack? Should I, should I use an inner core? There is no core in there. And the pendulum was very adamant about it. It gave decisive yes and no answers. So I'm going with that. Um, how could you outthink yourself? All right, or your higher self rather. So we're running this and see what's going on. It doesn't really need a stack for doing this sort of thing anyhow, because it's not an aiming device. We're not aiming this anywhere. We're not pointing it at the sky. It's just sitting there and it's doing its thing. All right. And as far as the quantum effects goes, this is essentially working the same way as this, or vice versa. Okay. The way I see it, if this DNA sample over here, could affect the DNA donor, this thing is going to affect uh, who knows, the environment, the world, politics, who knows, all right, from the frequencies that's being pumped into it. So what we're going to, here, I'll um, hit this thing up. There we go. That is god awful, isn't it? Um, that right there just happens to be here we go, that particular frequency. And it's going to run through the cycle. One frequency after another, after another, after another, on and on and on and on and on, as long as that computer is running, as long as this system is going. And as you can see down here, maybe you can't see it, but you know, we got a couple of lights going on in here showing that the thing is working. All right. It's basically set up to kill pathogens and things like this, you know, the bad things in your system, like a detox program. All right. If it could detox me, it could certainly detox the atmosphere. And while this thing's running, yeah, you could feel that. That is nice. What's going on is that frequency, it's pumping through this unit. You know, it's kind of slight there. It starts to get more when it comes to right in here. That's the vortex. That's where the action is. See, this is it's doing one of these things. That's what's so great about a toroid shaped device. And yeah, I've had this sitting around for a while, and I wasn't quite sure exactly what to do with it. It looks like I found a purpose. Well, I just wanted to let you know what I was up to. There we go. That's better. Like I say, I'll throw a potentiometer on there, you know, to quiet that down a little bit. But yeah, that's it. I'll keep you updated as to what's going on.